Hi guys, welcome to today's tutorial. This tutorial is a follow-up to the last video where we made a pair of trousers with pockets for theater scrubs. Now we're going to be making the top. So we're starting off with our fabric on fold. There are two pieces of fabric, one for the front and one for the back, both folded in half. The measurement we're using for the length is 28 inches and we're adding 3 inches to the bottom, which will be used to hem it at the bottom and to join it at the shoulder. Next, we're going to be placing our shoulder measurement, half of the shoulder measurement at the top of the fabric. Our shoulder measurement is 16 divided by 2, that's 8 inches. And we're marking that down now. Next, we're marking our shoulder slant, which is half an inch down from the shoulder measurement. Then from there, we're going to come down by about 8.5 inches to mark our armhole measurement. About 2 inches below our armhole measurement, we're going to mark our chest line, which is where we're going to be placing our bust measurement. Now the bust measurement we're going to be working with is 38 inches. So we're going to be marking a quarter of the bust measurement, which is 9.5 plus 1.5 inches for ease, and then 1.5 inches, which will serve as the sewing allowance. Then I'm going to be drawing the armhole curve all the way down from the shoulder down to the marking I made for the armhole. Next, we're going to be marking out a neck depth of 1.5 inches and a neck width of 3 inches. This is the measurement for the back neckline, and we're going to cut it out on fold. Then we'll take out the back piece and cut out the front neckline. If you have a French curve, feel free to use that and curve out your neckline, but I'm curving mine freehand. Next, I'm going to be drawing out my shoulder slope from the neckline down to the armhole measurement. Because this top is meant to be free and it doesn't have a zipper, I'm going to draw down my bust measurement to the bottom of the fabric. When we're done marking out these measurements, we're going to cut them out, making sure that all edges are nice and neat. When we're done cutting the pieces out, we're going to take out our front piece and work on our back piece. So we're going to be cutting off facing for the back piece, and unlike other facings, we're going to be making sure that our facing is on the front of the fabric and not behind. So as usual, we're cutting our facing out on fold, and this piece of fabric is about 8 inches wide by 22 inches long. So when you fold it, what you have is 11 inches by 8 inches, and we're going to cut out the neckline and the armhole measurement of the back piece so that it matches. Next, we'll cut out the front neckline, and for the front neckline, this is actually going to be 10 inches deep, and the width, instead of 3 inches like the back, is actually going to be 4 inches. So we're going to cut it out to make it wider, because at the front we're going to be making a V neckline with an extension, which I'm going to demonstrate as follows. So as I was saying earlier, the reason why the front neckline is wider than the back neckline is because there's an extension that will be added to the front neckline in order to create that V effect. So I've marked out the front neck width of 4 inches. Now I'm marking the neck depth of 10 inches. Then I'm going to join that together to create a V neckline. By the time we add the extension, you'll find out that the neck depth is going to come up by about 2 inches, and then the neck width is going to come in by 1 inch to match the back neckline. So this second line I'm drawing is just to demonstrate that that is what the extension is going to look like. That's how far it will extend. When we're done marking, we're going to cut out on the original neckline that we marked, not the one I used to demonstrate. It might be a little bit confusing, but just keep on watching and everything will make sense in the end. So this is the fabric we're going to be using to extend the neckline. It's about 2.5 inches wide on fold, which means when you open it up, it's about 5 inches wide. And the length is about 24 inches. After we attach it, you'll find out that everything balances up and the neckline is going to be extended as I'm showing now. Next, we're going to be cutting out the sleeve. We have 2 pieces of fabric here on fold, one for each arm. And the sleeve length is 10 inches, but I'm going to be adding 3 inches to the length of the sleeve, which will serve for hemming and attaching it to the body of the fabric. So when we want to hem the sleeve, we're going to fold in first by half an inch, then we're going to fold by 2 inches. So to create the front neckline, we're going to use that piece of fabric that we cut out and fold it in half. Then I'm going to come up from the middle point by about 2 inches. Then I'm going to slant down from the 2 inches mark towards each corner and sew along that line. Then I'm going to cut out the excess fabric, leaving at least a 1/4 inch to half an inch allowance on both sides. Then after cutting that out, I'm going to turn it over. When you turn it over, you're going to find out that you've created the V effect you're looking for. And I'm going to attach this to the front neckline. This pointed edge is going to be matched to the middle or the deepest part of the V of the front neckline. So now I have my front piece and you can see the V that I cut out. I'm going to match the deepest part of that V to the point or the middle of the neckline that I have created, and I'm going to sew along the edges, attaching the 2 of them together. So you sew on one side, then you turn it over and sew on the other side, making sure that the V, the deepest part of the V, matches that line of the neckline that you created. And when you're done attaching it and you turn it over, you see that you've made an extension to the neckline, so it's not as deep as it was before, and you have a perfect neat finish. Now on my back piece, I'm going to take the facing that we cut out and place the right side of the facing on the wrong side of the back piece. And when I'm done, I'm going to sew along the neckline and turn it over. So when you turn it over, this is what it's going to look like. The facing is going to be on the right side or covering the right side of the back piece. Then after turning it over, I am going to sew down the bottom of the facing onto the fabric or the right side of the fabric as I'm showing now. I've folded it in by half an inch and I'm going to sew it down onto the back piece of this top. So when you're done sewing down the facing, you're going to attach the shoulder of the back and the front, and as you can see, the back piece and the front piece shoulders, they match because of the extension. So when you open it up, this is what it's going to look like. You can see the back piece and the front piece have been joined together. I've gone ahead to hem the sleeve. Next, I'm going to attach it to the shoulder measurement for the front and the back piece. So when you're done attaching the sleeves, you start at the middle and then you sew all the way to the other end. Next thing you're going to do is the pockets for the front of the top. I've gone ahead to cut out 2 pieces of fabric that are about 8 inches wide by 7 inches, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold in one end by half an inch, then fold by 1 inch. After folding, I'm going to hold that in place by sewing with my machine, and I'll do the same for the second pocket. So these 2 pockets are actually going to be on the front of the body of the fabric. Now you can choose to attach the pockets on the front piece before you join the side, and this is actually easier if you are learning, but I'm actually going ahead to join the sides of the fabric from the sleeve right down to the body of the top, and I'm not going to join it all the way down. I'm going to stop about 5 inches from the hem of this top. So after joining both sides of the top, I'm going to turn the right side out, and then I'm going to mark on the body the placement for the front pockets. And the position for the front pocket is about 18 inches from the shoulder. That is where the top of the pocket will be, and it's going to come all the way down about 6 inches. So I'm marking 18 inches and 24 inches, and it's also going to be about 2 to 3 inches from the side of the fabric. So you are going to give an allowance of about 2 inches before you sew down the pocket on the front piece. Now when you're sewing down, make sure that you don't sew the back piece and the front piece with the pocket. This is going to be very stressful for you, so just make sure you have all the obstacles out of the way and you're just working on the front piece of the fabric. Next, I'm going to place the pocket on the front piece of the fabric, and I'm going to sew it down along those lines I marked with less than a 1/4 inch sewing allowance. So you want to make sure you're sewing as close as possible to the edge of the pocket, which is why I said less than a 1/4 inch from the edge will be your sewing allowance. And you're going to sew that all the way around, making sure you are avoiding the back piece while you are sewing. As you sew, make sure you stretch out your fabric so that it doesn't bunch up underneath the pocket. When you're done sewing, cut off all excess thread and repeat the same thing on the other side, because what you have are 2 pockets on the front of this top, and as you can see, my hand fits in quite comfortably. Next, I'm going to be hemming this top at the bottom. So first of all, I'm going to fold in by 1/2 inch, then I'm going to fold by 2 inches and hold that in place with my machine. Now remember that we left about 5 inches at the bottom from the bottom of the fabric while we were joining the front and the back pieces together. And now that we've hemmed our top, what we have left is about 2.5 inches. I'm going to hold that in place by sewing about 1/2 inch from the folded edge. I'll sew all the way up to where I joined the front and the back pieces together. I'll pass the joining by about 1/2 inch and sew down on the other side to hold all of that in place. After which you can go ahead to interlock and weave your rough edges. We're actually done making our scrub top. It was really simple. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe.